We are 6 months into this pandemic and musicians continue to struggle. Today we're going to talk to an artist who's tried to do a little touring this summer with mixed results, so stick around. Welcome to Charlie's Open Mic. My name is Charlie Mossbrook. On today's show, we're going to visit with Anna P.S. She is a songwriter out of Goshen, Indiana. She has attempted to do a little light touring during the summer months, and she's had mixed results. We're going to talk to her about that, and we're going to listen to her music, so let's do it now.
Spend them sitting on the back porch, or will we still march in the fights? And what are the things we'll wish for when we reach old age? Is it a grand old house we filled with people, or an island alone? Someone has to go first. Someone will have to go. All things have to go in the end. There's nothing left but who we leave behind us. And I find the older I grow, the more I fear. Not death or growing older, but that will never make it there. Someone has to go first. Someone will have to go. Well, all things have to go in the end. There's nothing left but what we leave behind us. Set in our ways, or will we soften graciously? Well, I once knew a woman called home. She's who I would like to be. Someone has to go first. Someone will have to go. All things have to go in the end. There's nothing left but who we leave behind us. Someone has to go first. Someone will go.
Welcome to the show, Anna.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here today.
It is great to be here.
So let's dig back into your past a little bit. You grew up in Pennsylvania?
That's correct.
That's correct. In, what is the town? Greencastle?
Greencastle. Pretty close to Gettysburg.
Hagerstown?
Almost in Maryland. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Hagerstown, Maryland.
And when did you leave Greencastle?
In 2006, I began college at Goshen College in Goshen, Indiana, which is where I still live.
Okay. And you studied sound engineering? Was that your?
Sort of. The only reason I came out here for college was for the American Sign Language interpreting program, which I did for a year and a half.
Okay.
I graduated with a double concentration in music and communications.
Mm-hmm.
Not specifically sound work, but my job at the college is where I started doing audio engineering. It was an apprenticeship. It was the best job preparation of my college experience.
And you grew up studying flute.
Yes. My parents made us do piano and a band instrument. I wanted to learn clarinet, but my dad did not want to hear me learning to play clarinet. So flute and piano, I learned trombone in middle school because they wouldn't let me play flute in jazz band. And I picked up harp at one point too because it just interested me.
The string harp?
Mm-hmm.
So you moved to Goshen to go to school, and you decided to stay in Goshen.
I wouldn't think of it so much as a decision. It just, my life led me that way. I kept having job opportunities around here in the audio world and just ended up sticking around for most of the time. I lived in South Bend for some of that, and I did live in Michigan for 2 years, but I mostly tell people that I've lived in Indiana for the last 15 years.
So you had a group called Shiney Shiney Black. When did they begin?
I was part of Shiney Shiney Black before we were actually called Shiney Shiney Black. Nate and I did a handful of shows. I want to say it was in 2012, approximately.
That's when you got started?
Mm-hmm. And at that point, it was just Nate Butler and I. And they're still together and playing music.
Mm-hmm. And you did a show with them recently.
Yeah, we played at Goshen Brewing Company. It's great that they can have live music outdoors in this summertime. My desire was to do like our entire show together, but we just shared a few songs. With COVID and scheduling, we ran out of time to practice everything that I had envisioned. But yes,
hard to plan.
Yeah, I'm used to scheduling my life 3 to 6 months in advance, and lately, everything's like 2 weeks out. I just did a short tour to Kansas, and while I was on tour, I was booking shows for the following week within the tour that I was on, which is not how I'm used to living.
So let me dig into that a little bit, because that's kind of what I really was curious about when I asked you to be on. So we've used this show to since COVID began as a way to explore the different ways musicians are dealing with the pandemic, and everybody's got a slightly different take, different needs, different goals. You have chosen to continue to tour and do in-person shows. How many of those do you think you've done since the pandemic began?
Before the short tour that I did, probably 5 or 6 shows. I wouldn't say that I've chosen to continue to tour. When I got home in March, I was actually in Bend, Oregon, in the middle of a 3-month tour in the middle of March. So I lost a month and a half touring and drove home in 3 days, and just decided that the rest of the year I was going to only play regionally and locally for at least the remainder of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to get stuck somewhere and end up having the rest of my shows canceled again. It's not worth it emotionally or financially or any of it. So yeah, a Kansas venue contacted me, and I said, let me contact some other venues and see if I can put a tour together. So I did.
Okay.
Home and locally, I'm not playing any indoor shows. I did do a couple indoor shows when I was traveling, which I regret doing now because I got sick with I don't know what. I'm not very actively booking though. It's hard. I don't know. It's hard to like sit down and try to make any kind of plan for booking shows right now. All of the unknowns and not knowing what venues are booking, and all of that.
It does create a weird internal tug of war between our impulse and desire of, hey, do you want to play? Of course I want to play.
I would love to. It gives me, it feeds my soul to play music in front of people, but is it safe? I don't know.
Yeah, and we don't want to endanger our audiences or ourselves at all. And with that, you just mentioned that you got sick while being on the road, which is one of the big dangers. I think at the beginning of the pandemic, we were hearing about people like Alice Marsalis and John Prine, of course, who passed away from COVID. And one of the dangers that we have as musicians touring is that we're constantly going into new communities and meeting brand new people and shaking hands. So we're constantly being exposed to a lot of new people, which is exciting during normal times.
Yeah, it is. But, even so, getting ill during a pandemic is terrifying because you don't know for sure what it is. But it kind of, I feel like, is going to give me caution to take back to regular touring. Like, oh, maybe I should be more careful in general because health absolutely matters so much. And so, I mean, more when you're responsible for all of your traveling and driving and management and performing.
Mm-hmm. What's your travel mate's name right there?
This is Earl Grey.
Earl Grey.
He's new. He
I
did
thought you
pretty
said you
well.
weren't going to have any more black tea this morning.
Black tea?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he's a morning person and I am not. We're working on it.
I assume he's winning.
He's winning. Yeah.
Yes. So let's back up and talk about you getting sick on the road. So you had a odd experience with that, trying to get proper care. Do you want to share any of that?
Oh, yeah. So I did get COVID tested because all of my symptoms pointed to COVID and still point to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a poor musician person and Indiana has expanded Medicaid. I'm on Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
But, because of how health insurance is in our country in general, and with that, like, you never know what's going to be covered and what's not. So I avoid going to the doctor. It takes a lot for me to go to the doctor because of that. And I've had poor healthcare experiences outside of this one of just not being believed and not getting the care that I need.
Mm-hmm.
So I was driving home from Garden City, Kansas. I had about 16 hours. So I stopped and camped in Missouri. And I was camping by myself in a tent in somewhat rural Missouri and started having trouble breathing. I had shortness of breath for like 6 days, but I'd walked to the bathhouse and back and set up tent, and I'd been laying down for an hour and a half and couldn't catch my breath and started to get lightheaded, which was new, which kind of freaked me out. So I decided to go to the ER, and they ran a bunch of tests and I was COVID negative again. And the ER doctor told me that I have anxiety and that's why I haven't been able to breathe for 6 days.
Well, don't we all have anxiety these days?
Yeah. And it's like, I'm pretty familiar with my body. I feel like I'm pretty in tune with what's going on. Anxiety is like something I've dealt with my entire life. I've had panic attacks. I've taken medication for anxiety and depression. And like, I'm pretty sure this isn't anxiety. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be in the ER right now if I was having a panic attack.
So did you then head back to your campsite once they...
I was really angry. I was irate. Driving back to my campsite would have been backtracking from the hospital. So I went to a travel plaza close to the interstate that I needed to get on the next day and just slept in my car.
Wow.
Which is fine. My car is set up for sleeping, but I had like planned this camping experience and like splurged on a campsite, which I don't normally do.
Well, it's also it's scary to, in my mind, the idea of you sleeping in your car while you're convinced that you have COVID and you're dealing with shortness of breath and lightheadedness and some of the more scary symptoms of that.
Yeah. I guess at least like at a travel plaza, I was around more people than at a campsite, but I don't know.
And was the travel plaza set up where you had access to clean water and everything?
Yeah, I mean it was like a Love's. I've
Okay.
slept in many a Love's parking lot. It's like, there's like a whole row of cars. And it's like these people are clearly sleeping in their cars or their RVs or their whatever overnight.
I haven't done much traveling since the pandemic began, so I don't really know what's open and what's not, what's available, and
Um, yeah, the first trip I took a trip out to Pennsylvania just to do some hiking and visit family back in June. And my friend Rosanna here was like, "Oh, like what if places aren't open?" But pretty much everything's open and operating. Yeah, with some amount of like most people wearing masks these days. It depends on the state
yeah.
and the part of the country you're in.
So you've done just 5 live concerts. So that's not nearly as many as I think. I was looking at your calendar and it looked like there was a lot more on there.
Well, I've also canceled some. I was supposed to come home after Kansas and go play a couple of shows in Ohio, but I, with not knowing what I had yet and wanting to quarantine and just not feeling up to it, I canceled those.
Mm-hmm.
That's also an estimate. I also did things like I went to Goshen Brewing Company when my friends, the Wallens, were playing, and I got on stage and played with them their second set. So it's like not a scheduled show, but I showed up and played music.
Right.
So there's been some of that.
So have you been supplementing them with virtual concerts?
I've done a couple. I feel like I should. The couple that I've done went really well. I'm a little hazy on how the new Facebook guidelines are affecting streaming of live performances.
I think we all are.
Yeah, so I as we get into winter and I don't have live shows, I want to start doing some more consistent live performances.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just hard for me to schedule them or to think about scheduling it because I'm so used to this external show schedule that it's hard for me to think about organizing or putting that in my schedule. Although it's something I think I'd like to do even if or when we return to normal or like any kind of regular touring because there are places I just can't get back to often.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it'd be fun to share music with people that aren't going to hear me otherwise.
So as you line up concerts in the old world, in the old world,
I like that.
The old world.
Old world. Yeah, that's new. I haven't heard that.
We schedule everything 6 months out, sometimes a year or two out. Today with virtual concerts, that's not as necessary because it is a much more immediate forum. Virtual concerts allows us a little more impulsive behavior as far as performing goes.
Mm-hmm.
So if I wake up on Wednesday and say, I want to do a gig Friday night, I just make an announcement and I do it.
Yeah.
Do you happen to have a flute close by?
I could go grab it from the shed, which is not far away.
Okay. I can wait.
I have a cat asleep on my lap.
Unlike most musicians, I would speculate. I know myself, I don't play drums on stage. And that was the instrument I learned, and I don't do choral music on stage these days. You continue to include flute in your show. And do you do that with looping pedals mostly?
Yeah, so typically what I do is I'll do one loop with the guitar just through either the verse or chorus chords, depending on the song. And then I'll flute.
And then I imagine you do a little flute without any background too.
No, not yet.
Let's try it.
But I learned that for Fife one time. I have no idea what it is. I still do a lot of marathon shows, like the 2 and 3 hour bar gigs, and I couldn't do it without the flute. It gives me, I have fun with it too. It's nice to change it up and get to do something different.
If you appreciate this content, please consider subscribing to the channel. Please ring the bell for notifications of upcoming episodes. Always click like on the episodes and comment down below. Let us know what you're up to. And you can always visit us at charliesopenmic.com, where you can find our Patreon page and help support the show.
Dog is barking, the train it rumbles by. Street light is shining, and I heard a baby cry. I look up to the heavens, Lord, but why must I try when I keep looking up there to one empty sky? When I keep looking up there into one empty sky. Woke this morning and the sun shone in my eyes. I had no hope then, I thought I would die. I look up to the heavens, Lord, and why must I try when I keep looking up there to one empty sky? When I keep looking up there into one empty sky. And every now and then I look so deep inside of my soul. Surrender and I fall down to my knees. Well, and I know now what I must expect from myself. I've got to give, but when there's nothing left to give, I've got to try. When there's nothing left to try, I've got to love. When there's nothing left to love, I've got to reach. I gotta reach my hands up into one empty sky. I gotta reach my hands up into one empty sky.
Thanks for watching Charlie's Open Mic this week, and thank you to Anna P.S. for sitting down and sharing her story and song. As always, please hit that subscription link down below. Please ring the bell for notifications of upcoming episodes. You can always visit us at charliesopenmic.com and find our Patreon page to help support the show. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.